At first glance, it might seem tough for the Chicago Blackhawks to successfully trade this player, as with his first season in the club, he appeared in just 26 games, posting 7 points, but a neck injury basically derailed him and a concussion limited his playing time, and he carries a cap hit of $5 million for the next 2 seasons before becoming an unrestricted free agent in 2024. And you could also argue this is a significant overpayment for a 31-year-old forward. I am talking about the Chicago Blackhawks forward, Tyler Johnson. And these factors that I just talked about could make it extremely tough for Chicago to move Johnson, but Blackhawks general manager Kyle Davidson has made it clear that the team is rebuilding and open for business, and while Johnson's production has dropped off since posting a career-high 72 points with the Tampa Bay Lightning in 2014-15, he remains a versatile forward with 2 Stanley Cups on his resume, and so therefore, here are some teams I pretty much gathered together and thought that a potential trade might come to fruition. So the first team is the Anaheim Ducks indeed. And although the Ducks have missed the playoffs for the 4th consecutive year, the future is looking very bright in Anaheim. Young players, including Troy Terry, Trevor Zegras, and Jamie Drysdale, all made strides last season and should play prominent roles when the Ducks become competitive. Meanwhile, top prospect Mason McTavish is waiting in the wings, and the team owns the 10th overall pick in this year's draft, so it wouldn't be surprising to see the Blackhawks in a similar place a few years from now, in which they're still rebuilding but have some solid core pieces. Anaheim enters the offseason with just over $39 million in cap space, and that's the most amongst all 32 teams in the league right now. And even as a rebuilding team, the Ducks are slowly making progress, and they will have enough money to take on Johnson's contract if they are interested in adding a veteran presence. He'd be a decent middle six option and could serve as a mentor for an inexperienced Anaheim forward group. The second team I wanted to talk about was the Winnipeg Jets, because the Jets had really high hopes heading into 2021-22, but performed below expectations and missed the playoffs. They're now at crossroads, as forward and captain Blake Wheeler could be on his way out if the team retools. Furthermore, Winnipeg also needs to consider forward Pierre-Luc Dubois, who is set to become a restricted free agent in July and has reportedly informed the team management that he would like to test the UFA market in 2024. From their head coach vacancy to the on-ice product, there's a lot of uncertainty at Winnipeg right now. However, if the Jets decide to maximize their competitive window, adding Johnson could make sense. Though new deals might be in order for Dubois and other RFAs, their team approximately has $18 million worth of cap space. So taking on Johnson's contract, while not cheap, could work if the organization wants to enter the win-now mode. Johnson would also bolster the Jets' forward depth, in my opinion, because Zach Sanford and Paul Stastny are set to become UFAs this summer, and Johnson's versatility to play both center and right wing may be welcomed. The third team I wanted to talk about was the Carolina Hurricanes, because after a 7-game loss against the New York Rangers in the second round, Hurricanes GM Don Waddle has a lot of work cut out for him, and the team has a nice core in place with forwards like Max Domi and Nino Niederreiter and Vincent Trocheck and Derek Stepan all set to become UFAs this summer. And it really just depends on how many, if any, of those forwards Waddle brings back. Trading for Johnson could be a viable route for the Hurricanes should they want to fill some of those gaps. The Hurricanes enter the offseason with a little more than $19 million worth of cap space. Some of that money could go very well towards pending RFAs like Tony DeAngelo, Ethan Bear, or Marty Necas, but it also leaves some room for some additional flexibility. While Johnson wouldn't necessarily be an upgrade over any of the aforementioned UFA forwards, he'd replace some of their depth provided if he stays healthy. As Blackhawks and Hurricanes head in opposite directions, a trade between the two teams could make sense. Much like their Colorado Avalanche a year ago, Carolina has more than ready to take the next step, but they have some holes in their middle six to fill, and therefore that's why I think that Tyler Johnson is a viable option to make a trade with. And the last team I want to talk about was the Detroit Red Wings. And the Red Wings, even though they may be rebuilding, they still have a young, solid core taking shape, I guess. With a little under $36 million in cap space, this offseason is going to be critical for GM Steve Yzerman, whose team is basically on the verge of contention but still has some weaknesses. With a little under $36 million in cap space, this offseason could be critical for GM Steve Yzerman, whose team is basically on the verge of contention but still has other noticeable weaknesses. And one of the areas the Red Wings have to improve in is scoring depth. As constructed, the forward group is noticeably top-heavy with Dylan Larkin, Tyler Bertuzzi, Jacob Vrana, and Lucas Raymond leading the way, but Johnson may not be the flashiest option for Chicago's original 6 rivals, but he's still going to be a proven solid veteran presence for the team, much like he would in Anaheim or in Carolina or even in another team, for example, like the Winnipeg Jets that I just mentioned. So, based on that, it could be that the Red Wings appear much closer to contention than Chicago, which is why adding a player like Johnson makes sense. Yzerman, of course, is also familiar with Johnson's playing style and skill set, given that he played for the Lightning under his watch. Or there could be a possibility that the Blackhawks just don't try to move Tyler Johnson and they try keeping him, because even though there are 4 and could be even more teams that are fitting for Tyler Johnson to be traded to, there's also a good reason why the Hawks should actually keep him, because not only can Chicago afford his contract, but he'd actually add a significant experience to what could be a young forward group next season. While they have moved out of the win now mode, having Johnson in the fold makes Chicago's roster better and not even worse. Should he stay healthy and bounce back, even marginally, his trade value could also improve come next year's deadline. And despite his injuries, Johnson still provides championship caliber experience and versatility, traits just about any club would want. And so for the Blackhawks, trading 23-year-old forward Brendan Hagel to the Lightning in March shows that the unexpected could be on the table as they rebuild, which is why Johnson is worth keeping an eye on. Thank you guys for tuning in, and have a wonderful day.